Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the intimate ambiance of the salon, Jensen's anxiety filled the air, as tangible as the gentle buzz of the hairdryer. Each moment stretched like a lifetime as he perched on the edge of the styling chair, his heart a drumroll in his chest. The stranger in the mirror, with hair flowing in unfamiliar waves, captured his gaze. Madeline, the maestro of this transformation, worked tirelessly, sculpting the epitome of elegance. "Nearly there," she assured, wielding her brush with the precision of a conductor's baton. "A masterpiece in progress." Jensen's thoughts drifted to a pivotal conversation, fresh in his memory. He recalled the night he'd gathered the courage to confide in his wife, Emma, about his secret longing to cross-dress. "And if this is something that makes you happy, then I want to help you explore it." That conversation had led him here, to Madeline's salon, where he was about to embrace a side of himself he'd kept hidden for far too long. "There we go," Madeline announced, setting down the hairdryer. "Now, let's move on to makeup, shall we?" Jensen nodded, his throat too tight with emotion to speak. As Madeline began applying foundation to his face, he closed his eyes, allowing himself to relax into the experience. "So, have you thought about a name for your feminine persona?" Madeline asked, her voice warm and encouraging. Jensen opened his eyes, meeting Madeline's gaze in the mirror. I've always liked the name Sienna," he admitted shyly. Madeline's face lit up with a smile. "Sienna? That's beautiful. It suits you perfectly." As Madeline continued with the makeup application, Jensen felt a sense of peace wash over him. For the first time in his life, he felt like he was truly becoming himself. "Now, for the eyes," Madeline said, selecting a palette of neutral shades. "We want to enhance your natural beauty without going overboard. Remember, less is more when it comes to daytime makeup." Jensen listened intently as Madeline explained each step of the process, from contouring to highlighting. He was amazed at how a few simple techniques could completely transform his appearance. "And for the finishing touch," Madeline said, holding up a tube of burgundy lipstick, "a color that will complement your dress perfectly." As Madeline applied the lipstick, Jensen couldn't help but smile. He'd never felt so pampered, so cared for. It was a feeling he could definitely get used to. "All done with the makeup," Madeline announced. "Now let's get you into that gorgeous dress." Jensen stood up, his legs a bit shaky from sitting for so long. Madeline led him to a private changing room where a flowing burgundy cocktail dress hung waiting for him. "Do you need any help getting into it?" Madeline asked. Jensen shook his head. "I think I can manage, thank you." Once alone in the changing room, Jensen carefully slipped out of his everyday clothes. He took a deep breath before stepping into the dress, pulling it up over his body. The soft fabric felt amazing against his skin, and as he zipped it up, he felt a thrill of excitement run through him. He emerged from the changing room, and Madeline gasped in delight. "Oh, Sienna, you look absolutely breathtaking!" Jensen blushed, unused to such compliments. Madeline guided him back to the mirror, and when he saw his reflection, he could hardly believe his eyes. The person staring back at him was undeniably feminine, with soft features and an elegant silhouette. "Now for the finishing touches," Madeline said, helping Jensen into a pair of nude heels. "Remember, small steps and keep your back straight. It'll help you maintain your balance." Jensen took a few tentative steps, wobbling slightly but quickly finding his footing. Madeline offered her arm for support as they made their way to the front of the salon. Emma should be here any minute to pick you up, Madeline said, checking her watch. Are you excited to show her? Jensen nodded, a mix of nervousness and anticipation bubbling up inside him. I just hope she likes it, he said softly. Oh, honey, she's going to love it, Madeline reassured him. You look absolutely gorgeous. Just then, the salon door opened, and Emma walked in. She stopped in her tracks, her eyes widening as she took in the sight of her transformed husband. Jensen? She whispered, then quickly corrected herself. I mean, Sienna? Jensen smiled shyly, giving a little twirl to show off the dress. What do you think? He asked, his voice soft and uncertain. Emma's face broke into a radiant smile. Oh, sweetheart, you look amazing! She rushed forward, enveloping Jensen in a warm embrace. I'm so proud of you, she whispered in his ear. As they pulled apart, Emma turned to Madeline. Thank you so much for everything. You've done an incredible job. Madeline beamed with pride. It was my pleasure. Sienna was a wonderful client. Emma linked her arm through Jensen's, her eyes shining with love and admiration. Are you ready to go home and show off your new look? Jensen hesitated for a moment. Actually, he said, glancing at Madeline, I was wondering if maybe we could go out for dinner. I'd like to experience being Sienna in public, even if it's just for a little while. Emma's smile grew even wider. That sounds like a wonderful idea. What do you say we try that new Italian place downtown? Jensen nodded eagerly, feeling a surge of confidence. With Emma by his side, he felt like he could take on the world. As they said their goodbyes to Madeline and stepped out of the salon, Jensen took a deep breath of the cool evening air. The sun was just beginning to set, casting a warm glow over the city streets. You know, Emma said as they walked to the car, I think we should make this a regular thing. Maybe once a month you could have an appointment with Madeline and we could go out afterwards. Jensen's heart swelled with gratitude. You'd really be okay with that? Emma squeezed his hand. Of course, love. I want you to be happy, and if this makes you happy, then I'm all for it. As they drove to the restaurant, Jensen couldn't help but marvel at how much his life had changed in just a few short weeks. The fear and shame he'd carried for so long had been replaced by acceptance and love. The Italian restaurant was bustling with activity when they arrived. Jensen felt a momentary flash of panic as they entered, worried that people might stare or whisper. But to his surprise and relief, no one seemed to pay them any special attention. The hostess greeted them with a warm smile. Good evening, ladies. Table for two? Jensen felt a thrill at being addressed as a woman. He nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. As they were led to their table, Emma leaned in close. See? You pass beautifully. No one suspects a thing. They settled into their seats, and Jensen carefully arranged his dress, remembering Madeline's tips about sitting gracefully. The waiter approached with menus, and Jensen found himself easily slipping into the role of Sienna.
I'll have the Pinot Grigio, please,
he said, his voice soft and feminine. Emma beamed at him from across the table. Make that two, she told the waiter. As they perused the menu, Jensen felt a sense of normalcy settling over him. This was just a regular dinner out with his wife, nothing more, nothing less. And yet, it meant everything. So, Emma said, setting down her menu, how does it feel to be out in the world as Sienna? Jensen took a moment to consider the question.
It feels right, he finally said. Like I'm finally being true to myself.
Emma reached across the table to take his hand. I'm so happy for you, love. And I want you to know that I love you just as much as Sienna as I do as Jensen. Tears pricked at Jensen's eyes, threatening to ruin his carefully applied makeup.
Thank you,
he whispered.
I don't know what I'd do without you.
The rest of the evening passed in a blur of good food, laughter, and conversation. Jensen found himself relaxing more and more, his initial nervousness melting away. By the time they finished their tiramisu, he felt like he could conquer the world. As they drove home, Jensen couldn't stop smiling.
Thank you for tonight,
he said to Emma.
It was perfect.
Emma reached over to squeeze his knee. It was my pleasure, sweetheart. I love seeing you so happy. When they arrived home, Jensen felt a twinge of sadness at the thought of removing his makeup and changing back into his everyday clothes. But as he stood in front of the bathroom mirror, carefully wiping away the last traces of lipstick, he realized that Sienna wasn't going anywhere. She was a part of him now, one that he could embrace whenever he chose. Emma appeared in the doorway, watching him with a soft smile. You know, she said, I was thinking, maybe we could set up a little area in the spare room for your Sienna things. A vanity, some storage for clothes and shoes. What do you think? Jensen's heart swelled with love and gratitude.
I think that sounds wonderful,
he said, pulling Emma into a tight embrace. As they got ready for bed that night, Jensen felt a sense of peace he'd never experienced before. He was loved, accepted, and free to be himself in all his forms. And with Emma by his side, he knew he could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of activity. True to her word, Emma helped Jensen set up a special area in their spare room dedicated to Sienna. They went shopping together, carefully selecting a beautiful vanity with a large mirror and plenty of storage for makeup and accessories. Emma even surprised Jensen with a padded bust form to help create a more feminine silhouette under his clothes. As Jensen explored this new side of himself, he found that his confidence grew both as Sienna and in his everyday life. He started taking better care of his appearance, paying more attention to skincare and grooming. Emma noticed the change and often commented on how much happier and more relaxed he seemed. One evening, as Jensen was getting ready for bed, Emma approached him with a thoughtful expression. You know, she said, I've been thinking, maybe we should consider telling some of our close friends about Sienna. Jensen froze, his heart racing.
I don't know if I'm ready for that,
he admitted. Emma sat down beside him on the bed, taking his hand in hers. I understand it's scary, but hear me out. Our friends love us, and I think they'd be supportive. Plus, it might be nice for you to have more opportunities to be Sienna, not just when we go out once a month. Jensen considered her words carefully. The idea of sharing his secret with others was terrifying, but a small part of him longed for the freedom it might bring.
Who did you have in mind?
He asked, hesitantly.
Well, I was thinking maybe we could start with Mark and Lisa,
Emma suggested. They've always been open-minded, and I know they'd keep it confidential if we asked them to. Jensen nodded slowly. Mark and Lisa had been their friends for years, and he trusted them implicitly.
Okay,
he said, taking a deep breath.
Let's do it.
The next weekend, they invited Mark and Lisa over for dinner. Jensen was a bundle of nerves as he helped Emma prepare the meal, his mind racing with all the possible ways the evening could go wrong. As they heard the doorbell ring, Emma gave Jensen's hand a reassuring squeeze.
"It's going to be okay," she whispered. "I'm right here with you."
They welcomed their friends into the house, exchanging hugs and pleasantries. As they settled in the living room with glasses of wine, Jensen could feel his heart pounding in his chest.
"So,"
Mark said, looking between Jensen and Emma.
"You said you had something important to talk to us about?"
Jensen took a deep breath, his eyes meeting Emma's for support.
"Yes,"
he began, his voice shaky.
"There's something about myself that I've kept hidden for a long time, and Emma and I have decided it's time to share it with the people we trust most."
Lisa leaned forward, her face full of concern.
"Is everything okay?"
Jensen nodded quickly.
"Yes, everything's fine. It's just... well, I'm not sure how to say this, so I'm just going to come out with it. I'm a crossdresser."
The room fell silent for a moment, and Jensen felt his face burning with embarrassment. But then, to his surprise, Lisa broke into a wide smile.
"Oh, is that all?"
she said, relief evident in her voice.
"Honey, we thought you were going to tell us you were sick or something."
Mark nodded in agreement.
"Yeah, you had us worried there for a minute. But cross-dressing? That's no big deal."
Jensen felt a wave of relief wash over him.
"Really? You're okay with it?"
"Of course we are," Lisa said, reaching out to pat his knee. "We love you for who you are, Jensen. This doesn't change anything." Emma beamed at their friends. "We were hoping you'd feel that way. Actually, we have a favor to ask. We've been going out once a month with Jensen dressed as his feminine alter ego, Sienna. We were wondering if maybe you'd like to join us sometime?" Mark and Lisa exchanged glances, then broke into matching grins.
"We'd love to,"
Mark said.
"It sounds like fun."
As the evening progressed, Jensen found himself opening up more about his experiences as Sienna. He showed them pictures from his outings with Emma, and they all laughed together as he recounted some of his early mishaps with makeup and heels. By the time Mark and Lisa left that night, Jensen felt as though a huge weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Not only had his friends accepted him without hesitation, but they were excited to be part of this journey with him. In the weeks that followed, Jensen's world expanded in ways he never thought possible. Mark and Lisa joined them for their monthly Sienna outings, turning them into fun double dates. They went to restaurants, art galleries, and even a local theater production. With each outing, Jensen grew more comfortable in his Sienna persona. He learned to navigate the world as a woman, picking up on subtle social cues and etiquette. Emma and Lisa were always there to offer advice and support, from helping him choose the right accessories to teaching him the finer points of walking in heels. One Saturday afternoon, as Jensen was getting ready for a day out as Sienna, Emma knocked on the door of the spare room.
"Hey, love, can I come in?"
"Of course," Jensen called, putting the finishing touches on his makeup. Emma entered, holding a small gift bag.
"I have a surprise for you,"
she said, her eyes twinkling with excitement. Jensen raised an eyebrow curiously. "What's this?"
"Open it and see,"
Emma urged, handing him the bag. Inside, Jensen found a beautiful silver necklace with a delicate pendant in the shape of a butterfly.
"Oh, Emma,"
he breathed.
"It's gorgeous."
Emma took the necklace and moved behind him to fasten it around his neck. "I saw it and thought of you," she said softly. "The butterfly symbolizes transformation and beauty, just like you, my love." Jensen turned to face her, tears welling up in his eyes.
"Thank you,"
he whispered, pulling her into a tight embrace.
For everything.
As they held each other, Jensen marveled at how far he'd come. From years of hiding his true self to now openly embracing all aspects of his identity, he felt like he'd undergone a metamorphosis of his own. That day, as they met up with Mark and Lisa for a picnic in the park, Jensen wore his new necklace with pride. As Sienna, he felt confident and beautiful, basking in the warmth of friendship and acceptance. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, Jensen looked around at the smiling faces of his wife and friends. He realized that in embracing Sienna, he hadn't just discovered a new side of himself. He'd found a deeper connection with the people he loved most. The journey wasn't always easy. There were still moments of self-doubt and fear, especially when considering whether to be more open about Sienna in other aspects of his life. But with Emma by his side and the support of true friends, Jensen knew he could face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they packed up their picnic and prepared to head home, Lisa turned to Jensen with a warm smile.
"You know," she said, "I have to say, Sienna's style is impeccable. Maybe you could give me some fashion tips sometime?"
Jensen laughed, feeling a surge of pride.
"I'd be happy to," he said.
"How about we plan a shopping trip soon? We can make a day of it." As they all agreed enthusiastically, Jensen felt a sense of excitement for the future. He was no longer hiding or ashamed of who he was. Instead, he was embracing all parts of himself, both Jensen and Sienna, and looking forward to the adventures that lay ahead. That night, as Jensen carefully removed his makeup and changed back into his everyday clothes, he didn't feel the usual twinge of sadness. Instead, he felt a sense of completeness. Sienna wasn't a separate entity or a costume to be put on and taken off. She was an integral part of who he was, always present even when not visible to the outside world. Emma found him standing in front of the mirror, lost in thought. She wrapped her arms around him from behind, resting her chin on his shoulder.
"Penny for your thoughts?"
she asked softly. Jensen smiled, meeting her eyes in the reflection.
"I was just thinking about how lucky I am," he said. "To have you, to have friends like Mark and Lisa, to finally be able to be myself."
Emma pressed a kiss to his cheek.
"We're the lucky ones," she said. "To have you in our lives, in all your forms."
As they got ready for bed, Jensen felt a sense of peace settle over him. He knew there would still be challenges ahead. The world wasn't always kind to those who defied gender norms, and there would likely be people who wouldn't understand or accept Sienna. But he also knew that with love and support, he could face anything. He fell asleep that night with a smile on his face, dreaming of future adventures as both Jensen and Sienna, no longer afraid to show the world all the facets of who he truly was.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!